DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are joined once again by Todd Phillips, UVU men's basketball coach. Todd, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Happy to be here.
Todd, where in the world are you calling from? What is the life of a college basketball coach like in June? What continent might be you be on trying to find a player or talk to somebody who might know a player who might be interested in coming in another year or two?
Yeah, actually, today's a good day. I'm actually looking at the lake right here. I'm over in Vineyard, just walking around outside, and recruiting's done for the year, so we're preparing for next year. But, yeah, it's been a little crazy the last few months, and so it's good to be done.
Yeah, we saw in the press releases that your University Sports Information released. You got a guy who played in Lithuania and Serbia. How in the heck do you find these guys and get them to come here?
Yeah, obviously, there's a little bit of rarity in whatever you're doing. A lot of it is agents, talking to, our players get agents, and those agents, know how good they've done here. And so they reach out to us, and then we reach out to them looking for guys. And so, I think in today's with the NIL and transfer portal, you're getting hit up, bombarded by a ton of agents. So you're kind of sifting through that and the guys you like and the guys you don't. We have a big whiteboard that we use for recruits. And it seems like every new Monday we come in, we wipe that thing off and start anew with new guys, because guys sign, guys, go somewhere else that you were looking at. And so it's crazy how it's changed in the last 5-6 years. It's a lot of speed dating is what it is right now. It's looking at a guy, trying to do your due diligence really quickly, making sure the numbers work, making sure that's kind of what you want, and then trying to make the best decisions.
How much do you get to know the guys when it's speed dating and they're half a world away? How do you know they're coachable and they interact well with people and they're changing cultures and languages? And seems like a lot of moving parts.
No, it is. It's a ton of moving parts. And how well do you get to know them? I think it's how well you get to know a speed date. You're getting on there and you're trusting a lot of people, right? I think a lot of what ours is return sales, meaning we worked with this agent with this kid. He's like, hey, this kid makes sense for you. And, you got to ask the right questions, which is not easy. It's like, okay, we're seeing what's this talent on film, but how can he translate to be a part of a team? How can he translate to be in a community? Can a city kid come to more like Utah Valley, right? And you have the mountains here and the lakes here, and can you handle that stuff? And so, you got to kind of go through all of that stuff and try to make the best decisions possible. I think in our recruiting, if you look at our roster, we kind of check the box of every board. We got freshmen coming in, we got international kids coming in, we got Utah kids coming in, we got transfer portal kids. Kind of checking that box in all those places, trying to build a team, and kind of really like what we've done this year with our roster. And I think what it starts with is trying to keep guys. We have 8 guys returning, which doesn't sound like a ton, but it's actually in basketball today is really good to have that many guys coming back. And so I think that's a great base and a great foundation for us.
A lot of talk these days with what's been going on with college basketball recruiting in terms of recruiting guys, whether they be in the G League or they play overseas professionally. And obviously you've brought in guys from the overseas guys that are listed as playing professionally. What are your thoughts on that in terms of, is it something that we need to take a look at, or a level of comfortability that you have with it?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like, when did the rules change? I thought we had rules in place that, you couldn't be a pro, you couldn't play at a certain level, and all of a sudden those all went out the window as you look around college basketball right now, what's going on. And so, kind of waiting for the NCAA to decide that, to have things trickle down, because I think for us, like, none of our guys they're played pro, but they're not at the high-level pros that the NCAA has been talking about. They didn't play in the NBA or the G League. And so those rules need to come into place, and then I think everything will trickle down from there. But when you're looking at kids, you're looking at kids that have played 3 years in pro. Some of the guys we've looked at and recruited is like, oh, they have a lot of experience. They're a little more mature. They're older, which is all good things for us. But now as you start looking at, guys coming back from the NBA, played in the NBA, and now come back, it's like, oh, what are we doing here? And so I think that legislation's got to come through. I'm a fan for cutting that off. And, if you're going and playing full-time pro for 3 or 4 years, that's completely different than a college kid who has to go to class and do all that stuff as well. And so, I'm all for a fan to keeping it at a collegiate level, right, for those guys, and those guys can go play pro somewhere else, and we'll keep the collegiate guys.
But the pressure's on coaches to win. And I have recently heard high-level schools criticized because they have a 26-year-old And then there was all kinds of jokes. Even the return missionary who gray-shirted thinks the guy is old. We can roll through all those. But nonetheless, when you're the coach, you're thinking like, I got to win or I'm getting fired. So give me the 26-year-old and let's go win.
No doubt. And so I think the coaches are going to push the envelope of the rules, and we're going to play within those rules. And so, I think it's just the NCAA gets a bad rap, I think, right now a little bit. But, like, they create rules, and then they just get overruled, the courts or whatever. And so something needs to come through that can hopefully we can actually establish rules, and everybody's got to keep them. Because we all remember, 4 or 5 years ago, it's like, if you put your name in the NBA draft, you can't play in college anymore. That was just a consequence. And so kids all pulled their names out at the last minute. They went through the whole process. Now it's like, put your name in. You can go to G League, and you can still go play college. And so, I think that's all got to get fixed with the NCAA, where they can pass rules and they can actually stick with those rules. Because we're all, as coaches, going to push those. Because you said we got to win, and it's win right now, and so we're going to push those rules the best we can. So it'll be really interesting as things shake out, because it's going to affect, if they go into place this year, it's going to affect a lot of schools. Obviously we know what's going on at LSU and all the pros they're bringing in, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Can you describe it as a free-for-all right now, then, with regard to the rules?
Yeah, I mean, it's we call it the Wild West. It's been the Wild West for the last 3 or 4 years, and different guys are playing by a whole different set of rules based on money and those kind of things. I think at our level, at the mid-major level, it's wild, but it's within reason. We just don't got $6 million to go bring a kid in from the top league in the Euro Cup. Just played in the Euro Cup, and now he's going to come play for us. And so kids that we're recruiting played a couple of years at probably the lower level of overseas, and so those kids are not going to come in and be, they're going to be really good players, but they're not going to be the best player probably in your league. And so it's kind of, we see it as a far a little bit at this level, but like it's not, we don't deal with it on a daily basis, as far as that. But yeah, everything's got to get under control, and it's just hard because the legislation, whenever it's passed, just gets skirted or around it. People go around it. So I like the five-year rule that they're looking to pass. I think hopefully those things can stay in place.
The players you're bringing in, came from the Lithuanian Basketball League and the Serbian Basketball League. Can you compare that to Division I conferences or D2 or 3 or JC or what? I mean, what level of competition is that?
Yeah, they're all kind of a little bit different, right? And to say we know exactly is false. I think we have a good feel of those leagues, and a lot of it's like, hey, we look at some of the guys playing in those leagues. Who are they playing against? Who are the Americans are playing against? Where do they play? And like Modestas is a Lithuanian. He's playing a high level. We got 2 of our top guys playing overseas that play at kind of comparable league. Trey Woodbury and Fardas Imek both play in that comparable league that this kid's in. And so we're like, ooh, he's pretty good. And, talking to agents over there, different kids are like, hey, you like this kid? This kid's younger, and he's probably has more trajectory to be even a better player. And so, we really got on him because we were actually recruiting another international kid, and a couple agents said, hey, this kid can come, and you'd love him, and this is what he does, and he's better. And so kind of some agents we trusted is kind of how we got on him. But, yeah, the league that he played in is a really high league, really high level, and he was a young kid coming up. I think he was MVP the year before in the lower league, and so they moved him up there. And so he was getting some good minutes in a really high level league. And so that gives us confidence as we watch his tape, say, oh, he's making plays against, grown men.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
What is your take on the expansion of the NCAA tournament?
Shoot. To be honest, I kind of just goes in one ear and out the other. I mean, with everything we're dealing with ourselves, I think it'd be great. It gives more opportunity for teams. Does it lessen the impact of like, hey, you're actually playing in those first games? I think once you get there, it doesn't. My biggest thing is I look at it as just bringing more average level high major teams into the tournament. It's like, oh, we missed out on the 10th, 11th, and 12th ranked team in the SEC. Now they're going to get in. I mean, I think it's I think it's an advantage when it brings in the mid-major teams who like, hey, had a great season, but they lost in the conference championship or something like that. I know in the Big West, which we're going into 2 years ago, they had two teams with 30-plus wins each, and they played each other in the championship, and one got in, and the other didn't make the tournament. And they had a great season and beat some really good teams, and they were on the outside because, the Big West is a one-bid league. So I think that would help them. I think they would have got in that year. So I'm excited for that. I think that stuff will definitely help, and I think that's what the college fans want to see. They want to see some more Cinderellas. They don't want to see more, more high major teams just getting in to play each other.
Yeah, and the high major teams are going to say Texas barely squeezed in and look at the run they went on. And a few years ago, UCLA barely squeezed in and look at the run they went on. And you are going to get teams in at 16 and 14 who are going to go out in one round. But they're going to sell the other story, and the other story is true. It's obviously only true to a degree.
Right. No doubt. And it's actually exciting to see a team, even a high major team who to go on a run, right? It brings some more excitement to that. So I think that's great. It's, we're just fighting an uphill battle every day to not get squeezed out of college basketball and what's going on. And, to be honest, I look at it, but it's like the last thing, and I can't control any of that stuff. And as mid-major guys, we can't control a lot of that. So it's like just focus on the present and what we're doing with what we have going on. And I think we've really built something great here at Utah Valley, and excited to, push and get to the tournament. That's our next goal. We haven't played in the NCAA tournament, is to get there.
You talk about how your roster's set, right? I think you said that earlier in this conversation. Yeah. But there's some teams that their rosters aren't set and they've got some holes to fill. We're getting late now into the recruiting cycle, so to speak. Are there players, or how many players are still out there that for teams who have a particular hole, whether it's at center or some other position, that they could find someone?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's amazing how many guys are still out there, and you can find guys. It's I'd say like 3 weeks ago we had our board up, and we were looking for a big guy as well, and we were going down this list of guys that one, we can afford, and two, that we think could be an impact guy for us. And I swear we got down the list like, oh, there's nobody on here. They're not good enough. The guys we're looking at are costing more money, and they're not very good. It's like, what? I mean, there's nobody. And then we come in the next week, we do a little digging, a little searching, and all of a sudden we came up with a really good kid that we found. It's like, dang, he's better than the two kids that we were outbid for. We had a kid we were on, and all of a sudden we thought we could get him. All of a sudden went to $300,000. Like, okay, we're out. And I think the kid we got for way less than that is better than both of those guys. And it's just kind of doing your work, keep digging, and kids pop up for all kinds of reasons, whether they decommit from somewhere, they're playing overseas, they haven't talked to guys. We had the Aziz Vandango went to Cincinnati when we beat Cincinnati with Madsen, and we got him super late, and he just was a kid who wouldn't return people's phone calls. He was a kid that a lot of people wanted, and they'd call and talk, and then they couldn't get a hold of him again. And we just kept working the phones with him until finally we got him on the phone. Like, hey, let's get you out on a visit. And he came out and obviously became an all-league guy for us, and was a tremendous 7-foot center that, tons of people are like, oh, how'd they get him so late? So there's guys out there. There's still guys out there, and they'll pop with some good players late.
When Utah and BYU got in the Big 12, there was a lot of talks like, hey, they cannot recruit high school kids out of Utah and get them and take the time and get them to play at this level. There's going to be more local kids available for these other schools. But we're seeing more and more foreign kids play, and we've certainly heard this in the world of tennis, but we're in a little bit in basketball. Hey, these foreign kids are squeezing out the local kids. I always go back to coaches are going to do whatever they can to make sure they don't get fired. They got to win, and they all know it. So there's that out there. What are you hearing? How much room do you think there is for local kids and local schools? And how do you see that playing out? What do you think is going to be true, a year or two from now? Because it seems to be changing pretty quickly in some respects.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. I hope those guys keep squeezing the Utah kids out, because we'll take them here at Utah Valley for sure. We're making a living and winning a lot of games with good Utah kids. And, I think in the state, if you want to win, you're going to have some Utah kids at all levels, from the Big 12 to the Big West at our level. They're just really good players. Now, there's not as many to choose from when the higher levels you go. And so I think it squeezes the bottom out, if that makes sense. Like, if there's 10 kids in Utah that are Division I guys, more international kids, more pros that are actually playing, a considerable amount of time, more pros overseas, you bringing those kids in, that's going to push everybody down. And so more of those kids got to go to junior college and go that route. But, obviously being a junior college coach myself, it's actually nowadays it's a great route. I mean, I think kids sometimes feel let down, but like if you go to Salt Lake, say, and play right away as a freshman, you have a better chance to play as a freshman there than you do to come to Utah Valley or to go to BYU or Utah and play right away as a freshman. So now you have experience, you actually play, and now you're getting recruited from those places to this next level up, And then we tell the same thing to, a 5-star kid out of Utah. You can go to the Big 12 school and you might not play your freshman year. Come to our place, play right away. You're really good for a couple of years. You're gonna leave and go somewhere else. And just how everything is working these days. And I think for us, we got to be really honest with the kids, which we are. And and we tell the kids, if you kill it here, our top 3 kids every year are transferring. It's a great place, but the money is just so significant that they got to do it. Obviously, we got the Holcomb kid went to Utah. The Hendricks kid went to Oklahoma, and then our point guard went to Nebraska. And so 2 of those kids are local kids.
Yeah, obviously. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on in-state scheduling? What would you like to see?
Yeah, if you want me to be honest, I can be honest on the radio here.
Yes, please.
We love to play those guys. I'm a Utah homer. I've coached here my whole life. I love BYU. I love Utah. I love Utah State. I know most of those coaches. I'd love to play those guys. Tremendous places, but like for a place like us, we got to be smart. To do like a home and home every year with Utah with no money involved for us is not too smart, right? And when we look at our schedule and we do the analytics for that, because we typically, if we go play a Big 12 team, they're going to play us quite a bit of money to go. And we need, we take guarantee money, which is called guarantee games. We take 3 or 4 guarantee games a year. And when you get those games, for a mid-major, like, okay, those are probably losses. If you can beat somebody, that's great, but you're taking those to have experience, and you're taking those to help your program. And so, like, hey, if we went in and had a tournament and played Utah and BYU in a tournament, it'd be great, but that would probably be money we don't get. And it's like, okay, there's 2 more games that, if we beat them, great, but the odds are we're going to lose. Now we got to go play 2 more teams on top of that to play. So we're really selective when we kind of work that. We'd love to play, Utah or BYU or even Utah State once a year, but for us to play everybody or to play a couple of those teams is not great for us. And the same thing for them, right? They have nothing to gain if they win. And if Utah Valley comes and beats them, our Ken Palm's 92. So we're a quad 2 team. We're a really good team, but a lot of people in the perception sometimes like, oh, you lost to a Big West team, and so it's hard on everybody's end. But no, we love to do it. We'd love to schedule those games. We just it's got to work for everybody, and it's hard because we all want to win.
Todd, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for giving up a little time at the edge of the lake to talk to us.
No, I appreciate it. I got my steps in today, and hey, you give me a sec to get a shout out. We have our camp. Our kids' camp is the 15th to the 18th in 2 weeks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you got kids in junior high, elementary, and going into high school, come to Utah Valley Kids Camp. It's going to be a blast.
He's Todd Phillips, UVU men's basketball coach. DJ and PK, when we come back, David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, joins us next. How did Jalen Brunson last to the second round? Well, ask David that. Stay with us.